it's moving all your fine material out and leaving that sand deposit in place. So it's a little trickier in this application to actually find the true bottom, because a lot of areas were like hard packed sand, which we know are not natural to those areas. So we took that into consideration. So, and I'll show you this map later of the amount of material that we're going to take from each location. Uh-oh. Let's see.
Hey, the install is done.
Uh-oh.
TV's been updating for about an hour. It's a big update for a big TV.
That is a big TV. Looks like it's coming.
Experiencing technical difficulties.
Just give it 1 second here. This aerial photograph over here that was taken with, I had a drone out, so you may have seen a drone flying over. Was part of my assessment. I'm a licensed drone operator too, so I like to use that because it's really good in these projects, because I get good, better current information, or more current than that you'd find on even Google. So that photo was a composite, or a photo. I have some software, and it's generated from 400 to 500 or 600 photos, and it blends them all together. So it makes a really high resolution, high res photo there. All right, let's see if we can get back on here. Here we go. We're back in business. All right. So chemical composition, that was what we talked about as far as the analytical testing. I take a sample from each of the, representative sample from each of the different locations, and I run it through, they require a metals analysis. So it's 8 different metals that they look for: arsenic, barium, cadmium, chromium, lead, mercury, and selenium, and silver. And then, like I said, in addition to that, I also do the NPK analysis just for the farmer's benefit. That land easement section is basically if you have piping or plumbing, and we'll get into the different types of dredging here in a second. But if we have to cross over somebody's property with a pipe, or access across somebody's property, you have to have, easements and access agreements with those. And so we establish all that in the plan. And then as far as equipment and the methods of excavation or dredging, in this case, there's really 2 main ways that they do it. They do hydraulic dredging, and that's basically having a barge with a cutter head on it, and it basically goes back and forth, and it has a suction and a pumping system, and they can push that material into a retention basin, up to a mile away. It's just plumbing that goes, into a basin that they construct. And the other way is mechanical excavation. It's like basically an excavator on top of a barge, and they will scoop it up and put it into a bin, and then they push that to the shoreline, and then from the shoreline they have another excavator. Basically that process. And in this case, that's probably the methodology that we'll use, because we can't find a suitable location that's within that mile, or shorter would be better, but they can pump it up to a mile. So in this case, we'll probably go mechanical, and in that case, they can take it as far as you need it to go. The closer the better, just because of the mobilization costs with that. But we got a couple different options as far as where they take it out. There's on the east side, there's the public access launch there, and on the west side, on the north corner there is another, that road dead ends into the, I don't know if that's accessible or not there, or if that's available, but that would be another location that they could potentially take stuff out to, go over to the west side. And then as far as contractors go, in the plan, the Lake and River Enhancement Program has a list of approved dredging contractors. There's about 20 of them. Not all of them are active, but that's included in the plan so that you have those contact names and numbers, and I'll give recommendations on the ones that I've seen in the past. This company called McCullough is the one that did the one on the bay that we did, prior to this study, and they're a good company, so I would recommend them. Disposal and dewatering. If you're doing the hydraulic dredging, like I was saying, that goes into this retention basin that they construct, and that goes in as a wet material, so it's basically pumped in there as a slurry, goes in there, and then that's usually segmented off into like 3 different settling basins, and that material will flow through that, and then by the time it gets to the 3rd basin or cell, essentially, it's clear water that's coming out, and that gets returned back to the water body. In this case, we're going to be, if we go mechanical, basically just scoop it up and it comes out. It's wet, but it's more like wet sand. And so they can haul that and they can just dump that in the field. And there's usually not a whole lot of prep work involved with that. They just find an acceptable field that has good drainage. Sometimes if you disturb more than an acre of property, there's some stormwater. You got to put silt fencing up and that sort of thing. But the contractor will handle all that. Then there's actually a 3rd way of dredging that this kind of alludes to, and that's there's these bags that they make, and usually it's for like ponds. When they do dredging in ponds, they'll have these giant bags that the material gets pumped into, and then it's porous enough that the water comes out, but the material stays in. And they add a flocculating agent in there with that, and that helps to drop all the solid material until let the water escape. But in this case, you won't be doing that. That's what it's asking about, the chemical flocculation. So that wouldn't be a part of this. And then the permitting section, the DNR does a really good job in helping with facilitate most of the permitting process. You basically, when you put your application in for the dredging portion of it, they have automatically notify the right authorities that are required. And then on top of that, there's this FERC permit, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, does have this other permit that can take 6 to 12 months to get, and it is there's a lot of other people you have to get. There's a lot of steps to that permit, but we'll help you through that process. Then the construction schedule, that'll be in the plan too. Typically, they do the dredging in the late fall after the spawn season with fish. So that usually happens a little later in the year, and then like October, like they'll be dredging, late September, and sometimes they get approval to do it a little earlier, but September to when ice comes on. So they have a pretty narrow window of time to do it. So sometimes it carries over to multiple years. In this case, I would expect this to be a multi-phased process, especially since you have such a big area there. And the cost, we'll talk about the cost a little bit. The cost, don't get sticker shock when I show you the numbers. It's just for discussion purposes. I haven't got a lot of feedback from the dredging companies yet to get us numbers, but I put numbers in that were from the Woodward Ditch project, just as a ballpark to kind of have some, discussion, to be able to discuss it. In this case, it's a bigger project. You will probably be able to negotiate the number down quite a bit. So when we get to that point, like I said, I'll go through it, but I don't want you to be disheartened. There are ways to reduce the cost.
You're scaring
I want to be realistic, but I don't want to. Yeah, I want to scare you. Okay, so anyway, the rest of this is basically how my report has to be formatted. Basically, how many copies I got to give to the state and that sort of thing. All right, so this is the map that was originally proposed or presented to me. So we got 3 different sections. The west side is what they call Site 1, and I'm sorry, some of my formatting got messed up when I converted from PDF over to my PowerPoint. So, but the figures is still correct. So the green area is Site 1, the yellow area on the right is Site 2, and then the central basin area is Site 3. And as we'll discuss here, I'll probably propose 2 different ways of doing that area where the Y is on the Site 2. If you did it the way that they propose it here, you're going to end up with an island in that crutch of that Y. So I ran the numbers, including that with the east side, just so that it'll be open. I think it makes more sense in my mind to have that open so that you don't end up with a big island there with people, bringing their boats through and not knowing that's there. So anyway, we can decide that, later too, but, I put the numbers in here so we can look at both.
Wasn't that a picture that the DNR had
Yeah, that was
really passed along to you?
yeah, that was what the DNR included with their request for proposal or the scope of work. So I'm just going to go through some of these. This is from Google Earth. This is available to everybody. I just brought it up because I thought it was interesting looking at the history. So I've got a number of years here. So back in '98, and this may have been a flood time. I know that there's some fluctuation with the dam and everything. But obviously you hit wide open water there on the west side. And then 2003, even then you're still, pretty open on the west side, and you're starting to see a little bit more growth. And as that as that vegetation gets a foothold, that even slows it down, faster. Well, I mean, as far as the woody stuff, like the trees and stuff, yeah, we don't. I don't know, but I know that we had a discussion before everybody showed up, and that was introduced. So yeah, there's a very big lotus, different areas of. Yeah, and I made that comment that I've never seen that before, and it was brought up that was potentially introduced. So that may be technically an invasive species and subject to being able to be taken out. Yeah, and they're prevalent for sure. So 2005, we still have pretty good flow there on the west side, and you can see that the island portion of it is shorter on the east side. And I'm glad this is showing it better because on my TV at home, this is really dark. So, so now we're in 2008. We're starting to get a little more growth. 2015, a little more. The island's starting to extend a little bit on the east side. Not a whole lot of change there, except when you have that lily pad or the lily pad area or the lotus pad, you can see that's getting bigger and bigger again in 2017. And then you have it, and then it's spreading now to the in front of, the south side of the bay there. This was in the wintertime, so this was after, those were off. But yeah, you're certainly getting more build up there. 2021. 2024, the east side island is no longer an island, it's more of a peninsula. And then this was when I did my drone work there, so that's the current aerial. That is something going forward, if you guys want that done. That is not a bad idea to maybe have that flown every year so that you have that data. I mean, Google Earth is pretty good about that, but I can get you really high res, photos of that. This is just a topographic map showing the location. We're on the north, central portion of Indiana, St. Joseph River. This is a different study, but I just threw this in here just to kind of show what's involved with our sampling process. So that's my daughter. So that rod that she's holding is graduated and at 6 inches, and we put that into the top of the sediment, and then you push it down to the bottom of the sediment. We take both of those numbers and we document that. And then that instrument that's in front of her there is a GNSS receiver. It's like high precision GPS unit. So that can get us within a couple centimeters of, from where that location is at. So for every spot that we take a sample, we have an exact location of where we've taken that sample. And then when we collect our sediment samples, that big tube, the green tube on the left, is just a drain, a tile essentially. And I shove that down in as far as it'll go, and then I put a cap on it, and it creates a vacuum. And then I haul that out, and it gives me a good core sample that I can submit to the lab for analysis, and I get a good representative sample.
How many samples did you take?
I took one from each, one representative from each. So there's three samples we were taken. And then each of those dots there's a number on there. Those are all of the locations where we did the manual samples. So I think we had 300, 400, something like that. The one area is real shallow there on the west side, so there's not a lot of data there, but that that was pretty easy to interpret because it's pretty shallow.
By manual sample, you mean depth?
Yeah. So yeah, I take the manual. Yeah, I'm not taking the physical sample to submit to the lab. This is where I would take my pole reading, you know, the top and the bottom. And then that information is compiled onto graphs. So like you can see each of those locations, you get a number, that's the waypoint sample location. I got an easting and westing at the date and time that was taken, the top of the sample, the bottom of the sample, the sediment thickness at that location. And then you do that, you know, so like this is the west side. That's the number of samples we took. I know it's probably 40 or 50 there. So on, excuse me, on average, the top of the material was at 2.79 feet below. The bottom was at 5.6 feet below, and there's 2.8 foot of sediment there. And then I'm proposing to dredge it down to 5 feet. You could take it down to the full 6 foot probably, but just for being realistic on the cost, about 5 feet is about the minimum that you can get, or you need to go to be able to get the dredging barges in there. So it's kind of a balance, but you could take that down a little bit more. And similar, this is the east side now, site 2. We're at 2 foot average. Some areas are much more shallow than that. You've got, you know, coming off from the boat launch out into the bay is much more shallow than that. I had to get out of the boat and actually drag it across there. So we had about 2 foot of sediment thickness there. And then site 3, I had throughout the bay, I had many samples, and that was on average 3.47 feet to the top, 6.87 feet to the bottom, 3.39 foot of sediment thickness, and to 5 foot is on average about 1.7 foot of material that would come out. And I just threw this in here. In addition to doing the manual sampling, I also use a Lowrance HDS Gen 3 sonar on the boat. It's got side scan and chirp down scan sonar. And I run that across throughout the area. That gives me really good data on depths. The colors, that indicates the deeper sections there. And then that allows me to generate what they call a bathymetric map or a depth map. Back here. Shows you the depth of the different areas throughout. Okay, and then going back to the different sites, we got site 1, site 2 on the east side, and the site 3 is the main basin. I can get this to reset. And then this is what this is an alternative version of the of site 2. So basically that would take out that island, and then so you'd have more in site 2 and less in site 3, basically. So this is the cross-section map that they require, and basically it was the same information that I just gave you as far as the material. So west shoreline, we're looking at, you know, taking it out to 5 foot. You've got 2.75 foot of material to remove, and on average 2.25 foot of water currently. Site 2 on the east side, 2.45 foot of water. We're going to take out 2.55 feet of material.
Well, that's a total we already.
Yeah, it's coming. That's coming. And then on the Central Bay, that's from actually that should be south to north rather than east to west there. So going out to the river, we're looking at you're going down to 5 foot again, you're taking out about 1.6 foot of material. And then this is kind of a breakdown of each of the different locations, and there's a lot of data there, but the mapped area. So this is site one. Site one is 4.31 acres. That's what we calculated. The maximum depth of sampling was 4, and this is from all sonar data related. Max depth was 4.82 foot. Average depth was 2.25 feet. I'm able to calculate out the total water volume, which is not really applicable, but the cubic yards of material, we're looking at 19,000 cubic yards of material in site one. That'd be the west side. And what I do is I multiply that number by 0.7. Because going back to the sloping, they do require like a 5 foot shelf so that you're not undermining your shoreline. So you have to have 5 foot of undisturbed area, and then it has to be a 3-to-1 slope. So that calculates out roughly to 30% of the material is up in place. Just when I do my numbers, it's like shore to shore. So basically that number, the 19 goes to 13,000 cubic yards of material.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
can I interrupt for
Sure.
a moment? Our group that's been working on this for 2 years, this is the first time we're seeing this. Okay. And I don't think that Steve is going to say anything that surprises anybody in this room. There are probably 5,000 dump truck loads of wood of sediment to remove. We can't afford it. Okay. But we potentially, with hard work of doing fundraising, applying for layer grants, we can start whittling away at it. We can make improvement. I don't want to have him throw out a huge number and everybody throws their hands up in the air and says that's impossible and walks out the door. We can make improvement. And this is not something that next summer or the following summer is going to be fixed. No way. This is a decades long situation. Anyone that's lived on the river for long can agree that the river always changes. You know, the history maps that he showed, that is, you know, there's changes from year to year, decade to decade. And the river, even if things were fixed, the next storm is going to bring in more silt and it starts changing immediately. Okay, we can do a couple things. We could do nothing. And in 40 or 50 years, there will be about 3 streams that go through a wetland of cattails that go out to the river that goes right past Baugo. It'll be the Baugo wetland swamp. Or we can choose to fight. We can get organized and we can come back every 2 or 3 years, apply for another layer grant and see what we can do. We can fight. And if we don't fight, we're going to lose the day eventually. I mean, maybe most of us in this room might not ever see it, but maybe our kids will. you know, that, you know, I, so when Steve throws out a huge number, yeah, we can't afford that right now. But over the next 10 or 20 years, we can chip away at it and we can make progress so the homeowners along the bay and the creek can actually use the river. They can get their boats out. And that's the aim.
Yeah, and those numbers are, it's like 50 foot wide, so you could reduce that number quite a bit if you wanted to get it down to, I mean, make a path that's 20 foot wide or 25 foot wide. We can certainly run the numbers that way. I was basing my dimensions based on the map that was given from the DNR. So yeah, there's ways. I mean, you can go shallower, you can go narrower. yeah, there's certainly ways. This is probably the worst case scenario, essentially, as far as the volumes. I'm just giving you the data, and we can certainly work with it. Yeah, with the budget and yeah, don't be disheartened on the numbers, because yeah, there's ways to massage these numbers or reduce your scope a little bit, maybe to make it more possible.
To interrupt once more here. Um, I was gonna get into this after Steve is done, but I want to mention the layer sediment removal grants. We've been told that we're potentially eligible to receive 3 grants in the relative short term. Each one of these grants is $100,000. It requires a 20% match. So for every 100,000, we have to come up with 20,000 to have skin in the game. Okay. So when Steve throws out some big numbers, don't get scared. I mean, there is some state money that can help us. That we're not trying. We're in our wildest dreams. We don't expect that the whole bay is going to be 5 foot deep in the short term. But there's state money that if we get organized and if we are motivated, we can improve things. This is not hopeless. So
Absolutely.
carry on.
Absolutely. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I mean, you focus on one side or the other and this plan is good for 5-10 years. You don't have to redo this step every time that you do the next phase. So okay, so the east side, it's a little bit smaller. This will be the one with the Y in it. So that's about 9,500 cubic yards of material.
Is this option 1 or 2?
This is option 1. This
With
would
the
be
Y.
Yeah, with the Y, it was about 9,500. With taking out with including that island area is about 13,000. And this is the big one for the whole bay. That's site 3. It's 86,000 cubic yards. It's a lot. In this case, I don't incorporate the 0.7 reduction because you don't have any shoreline, with that, aside from the area that's on the south side.
Is all of this information going to be available to the
Yeah.
public? Like, is there a place we can go and look at that?
Yeah, once the plan is complete, it'll be a sediment removal plan, and it'll be fully available on the DNR's website in the layer program.
But right now, no.
Right now, it's still in the draft phase, so this is not available because it's still it's still being developed.
Actually, this meeting is being recorded, and Tina back here will have it available. How would anyone access that? And is the screen up here included on that recording? Okay, thanks.
Okay.
86,000 minus 30%.
No, yeah. In this case, I didn't include that because you don't have the shoreline to subtract from, aside from the south side. So I mean, it might be a little bit of slopage there, but yeah.
You said you had to stay so far away from the shoreline so you wouldn't interrupt people.
Correct.
How far away did you say you had to stay?
They require a 5 foot undisturbed, and then it's a 3-to-1 slope.
And what happens to the sediment that's undisturbed up here?
Yeah, that will stay in place. Yeah, you want that there. You want that there to keep your shoreline from being eroded away. Because if you do a shear wall there, you're going to lose your property. So unless you have sheet piling in.
That sediment won't fall down that slope eventually.
Yeah, I mean, over time you're going to have some erosion there. You're going to have that erode away. But the reason why it's there is to protect your shoreline. Yeah. Okay, and then this was the option, the second option, if you included the island with the for, site 2, this reduces your amount in site 3. So basically you're at 76,000 there. And then this is just, I just threw this in there. This is the analysis that has to be done for each of the sites. So like I said, I had I had an east, west, and a central. All the data looks good. And you do have metals there. Every soil has metals in it. So you do have some metals there, but that's natural. You have that in every soil. That every soil sample that you would submit, you're going to have metals in it. So you don't have anything that exceeds any regulatory limits in the samples that we took.
At the meeting 2 years ago, there was someone concerned about potential contamination from the Conrail Superfund site. And I did contact the manager of that Superfund. Baugo Bay is not in the area of the Superfund and did not anticipate any problem. And is that something that
Yeah, I don't know what
looked
the
at as well?
contaminants were with that Superfund site, but this was specific only to the metals analysis. So if it was a gasoline, that wouldn't be picked up in this analysis. But yeah,
Oh,
in
it
the
was
analysis,
worse than gasoline.
I mean,
So
yeah,
you just analyzed for metals, no organics.
correct. Yeah, and then we did the nutrient analysis too. So yeah, there's no volatile organic compounds or SVOCs or VOCs. Isn't not a requirement of the plan. Not to say it wouldn't be prudent to do that if there was a concern of that being present, but it's something to consider if there is any possibility for that to have contaminated. But as Scott said, after talking to them, there shouldn't be any impact from that. And then this is the nutrient analysis. Again, this all be detailed in the plan, but on the right hand side there, you see pounds per ton. That's how much nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium you have in that sample. And that was the east sample. The central sample, that'd be the bay. You have 1.1 pounds per ton of nitrogen, 1 pound phosphorus, 0.7 pounds of potassium.
Is that normal?
Yeah, that's pretty normal. I mean, it's a silty sand, so I wouldn't have expected it to be very high to start with. If you get into like the back of channels where you're going to have more organic material, that number would go up. But because it's pretty flushed sand, it's pretty devoid of nutrient.
When you took the samples, did you grow already?
It would have been of the sand material at the bottom. It wouldn't be like the full water column or the plant. Yeah.
Well, it was when all the plant life.
Yeah.
Was that was lowered, so it's that back. Oh,
Yeah, true. That's a good point.
Judging by the pictures, yeah, algae is
we've
blooming.
had a huge.
Yeah, it was a big difference too between September and October. There was one time there was a lot of that the algae, the filamentous algae, and the next time it was gone. And same thing with the lotus. It was dying. The one time it was fully growing, and then next time I think it just got hit with a cold snap. So again, this is just drone. I just flew around and took some various photos here. So you're catching the east end of the west side, or the south end of the site 1. So this is looking to the east across the bay. This is looking down to the south on the site 1 on the west side. So yeah, all that lotus was thick. There's quite a bit of wildlife out there. You had a really big geese population, and a lot of different birds or swans. I'm sorry, swans. Yeah,
And pelicans.
yeah. There's quite a few different varieties of birds and plant life. So this is looking down the river there to the west. Yeah, there's probably 30 swans out there. It was crazy. And then I like to include photos for the dredging contractor to know where he can potentially, take the material off site. So this is looking down south on the east side, and then coming in towards the boat launch, and then looking basically up the boat launch. just to show them what kind of access they have. Some of that stuff might have to be trimmed back to be able to get their barges in and that sort of thing. And then this is on the west side. That's the road that dead ends into the bay. Right. And then this is looking back from the waterside, same location. And there's your favorite lotus. They're pretty though.
What
Water
is
with
that stuff called?
a lotus.
What is it?
I believe it's a yellow lotus. Water was a little murky while I was out there. So there's the, yeah, filamentous algae. It was pretty prevalent. So some of these photos are flip-flopped.
Algae or duckweed?
It's duckweed. There's duckweed and algae. I mean,
That's like a green hair.
yeah, so this would have been in October when it was dying off. Got a cold snap, and then this would be the end of the south end of the site 2. Swans. So these are the numbers. So this would be the original layout with site 1, site 2, site 3. Again, these are totally these are based on the prior Woodward ditch project, and they were at like 23 to 20. They were $23 for the dredging contractor, plus he had a mobilization charge, plus there's disposal on top of that. If you take it to they took it offsite to a farm field where the farmer did charge, to be able to put that material on the farm. So there was an additional charge there. So this is a ballpark number. You're probably going to be, this is going to be on the high end because this project is bigger, which will mean that the unit cost should be lower. But so keep that in mind. So site 1, you're looking at 300,000, site 2, 200,000, and then you're in the millions for doing the entire bay. And then this would be similar, but if you put it, site 2, you're going to be a little higher. So each of the different site 1 and site 2 is about the same cubic yards, roughly 13,000 cubic yards in that ballpark. So you're looking at about 300,000, give or take. Again, it could be down to 200,000, or if you wanted to get it down to the 100,000, you could, like I said, each of those channels is currently about 50 foot wide, is what I'm basing this on. So if you wanted to narrow that down, you could certainly reduce that volume. And that's it.
Is there any money available, like from the electric company or from place else?
Possibly. It, that will be this group's mission to seek out every funding source that we possibly can. The drainage board, it's our understanding, might have some money, the St. Joe County, but probably not a lot. Perhaps the St. Joe County Parks could kick in some money, but probably not a lot. The St. Joe River Basin Committee, as of last week, said that there is no statewide source of revenue. I mean, no state or federal money to take care of water basins. I mean, there's a Baugo River or a Baugo watershed basin, I believe. And there's some taxes to maintain that waterway, but it's not taxes to dig out 100,000 yards of dirt. I mean, it's to remove some trees every once in a while. But, as far as I&M, I doubt that I&M would contribute, but we'll ask. And, we will ask everyone that we can to try to come up with money. But, um, the large part of the money is the layer grants from the DNR. Early on, it was mentioned that we potentially could be eligible for 3 grants worth $100,000. Well, when you get the sediment removal study done, it kind of that gives the DNR a scope of just how big the problem is. And I think they probably have some flexibility of how big those grants would be and how many there could be over time. And to what was the total? 2,800,000.
Yeah, in that range, yeah. Again,
We'll say
there's a draft,
$2.5
yeah.
million.
Yep.
I mean, when the DNR sees that, they might be more likely to make those grants a little bit bigger and more frequent. So that, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, if we can whittle away and take care of the things that are most important. As Steve was talking, a lot of his numbers showed 5 foot of depth. Well, I mean, I'll just say, on the east side where the channel comes out into the bay, the boat landing's right there. A lot of people can get their boat into the water, but they can't get it from the creek out to the bay because the water is this deep. I mean, maybe a foot deep. Okay. Well, for those people, even going to 3 feet or 4, I guess 4 feet's the minimum for dredging. I mean, that'd be a huge improvement over
Right.
the current foot.
So I see this as kind of like, okay, how long have you guys been meeting to try to get this done?
Yeah, everything we've
No.
learned,
We've been
learned as
learning.
we go.
Yeah, so, but it's taken like years
Well,
to
this-
get this done. It's gonna take years more. When I look at those before and after pictures and the plan, it looks like we're gonna dig it out to what it looked like in 2008. And it's gonna cost to get it back to 2008. And then
I
in
don't
10
think-
more years, we're gonna have to spend $3 more million to do it again.
But
You
it
know,
could
it's
be,
not
it
even
could be-
taking it back to what it originally.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can
It-
sit in here and say that in 3 years it's gonna be completely clogged again, we're gonna have to do it. It could be 15 years, it could be 3 years, who knows?
Yeah.
No one
Let's
knows.
say it's gonna
because-
keep getting worse, and
Could-
when you talk about the ledges that we gotta leave, and you're worried about it washing out, I'm not worried about it washing out, it's just gonna get covered with more sediment.
Yeah,
Because when it storms here,
all that
it's a
sediment.
pond. And you got this car lot that takes up 250 square foot, riverfront. It's just a dump. And all that water coming down the street washes right into the creek.
It's the river.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
all
we
of
took $3 million and like established proper city runoff, maybe some water treatment site. So
Okay,
that we don't
and-
have to set it.
and down the line, this group could potentially look at the watershed
Mhm.
and to go upstream and figure out where all that sediment is coming from and potentially try to get measures in place to prevent a lot of erosion because that erosion goes straight into the bay.
Yeah.
That water, it moves swiftly down the creek. As soon as it hits the big open body of water, it slows down, the sediment drops.
Supposedly when they built the bypass, that was not a good thing. It was contained properly and,
Yeah.
well, I mean, so.
Yeah, I sat in the meeting here and they walked up and said the bypass, when they put that in, that was gonna fill in. And I said, no, there's no way it can happen. And then every year since that time, I can see more and more coming in there. Sit there, run up from the bypass into the
Uh,
creek and it's gonna fill up down here where it goes down.
The
Yeah.
gentleman in the back.
when they put in Baugo Bay Park. On committee down here with the fathers, they had $300,000 set aside for dredging from Jimtown all the way to the bay. I never heard where that money went to.
It, and
did, but the problem is, it increased the flow of the creek for more sediment. As soon as they took the trees out, it's like mile-an-hour difference in the flow of the creek. So and they also went in there and tried to do half of the creek
the
to get that dredge in by the line.
the DNR, they did say part of the problem with Baugo Bay is that they further up the watershed, things are too straight, and and perhaps that's what you're talking about, that it drains water so well that it creates more erosion. A typical watershed is winding and it slows down the water and there's plant life to slow it down so that you don't have a lot of erosion. I mean, but I'd have to say, um, I have I've heard a lot of stories about past problems, and I try not to focus on them too much because yeah, I mean everybody has a lot of stories about the past and how in 1950 it was like a lake, and now it's only half that amount of water. Okay, there's nothing we can do about that. But the remaining water, it it's going to disappear if we don't do something. And it's within our power to fight back. And if we don't try, the bay's going to disappear. Uh,
One more question.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to dredge that mud and put it on the existing lands out there?
no, DNR will not go for that.
Taking it out somewhere
They won't
else?
do it. I mean,
considered wetland.
it is, that is a flat out deal breaker that there's no way that that would happen.
If they did that, they'd make take out of the figure.
Yep, no way. That was one of the first things we had.
The only way
Look,
cause them to run out. They gonna do anything about that? No, okay. Just through that.
It's gonna be it's gonna take a whole.
Let- let me continue. I still have some, as I indicated earlier, of the second half of my talk is where do we go from here?
Is there a place where the rest of this information may be accessed online? Because I don't know how many people are able to stay. I would like to stay, but I can't. So the information on this, I know it's being recorded.
It is being recorded and can be accessed through the Osceola town internet. If I have business cards here that if you'd like to email me, I can, I'll have kind of a summary of my notes. And
He must
The-
be, he
this-
must be giving you a report with
He
all
will
of these
be.
slides.
he will be.
Why not make that available to the public?
It will be.
It will be a while before that's finalized, I
Like
believe.
15 minutes?
No, longer than that.
We're still lacking the disposal site. So that's a big component of, and a big cost adjustment, because if they have to truck it 50 miles away, it's gonna be a way different cost than if they can take it, 2 miles away. So that's why those are all draft numbers. So that's something that Scott will be talking about here, shortly, as far as looking for, everybody getting, some outreach there.
Is that valuable as fertilizer? Or is it sold, or is that being given away?
The dirt? Well, we'll give as much dirt
Yeah.
as we can afford to give. Kent,
You have a question?
We're involved in the Woodward bid, they brought the dirt to our place over on Harrison Road next to our paintball. Really, some nutrients in it.
Twenty-two, whatever.
You can see right.
well, we
Yeah.
can't afford 100,000 anyways, or at least not in the short term. So thank you for coming, and we definitely want to talk. I, how about one more question? And
Good.
I'd really like,
Could I say something before you start? What I have to say might have an effect on what you're saying. And please don't interpret what I'm saying as whether I'm for this or against it. I think it's exemplary that you're going to try to do something like this. But there are probably 50 other sites along the St. Joe River that are just like Baugo Bay. What do you think the public, when they find out about this, what they're going to do to want theirs done? I mean, I live adjacent to river shores. The water's a foot deep or less. And people can't get in and out of there, saying it's just like Baugo Bay. In fact, that Baugo Bay is probably better at getting
Well,
in and
they'll have
out,
to go
unless
up
you live up the creek. Okay. The other thing is, right now, the power company, they're talking about taking those dams out. They're going to take the Elkhart Dam out and the Montville. How's that going to affect the bay? It's probably going to be dry land if they take them out.
They've been saying that for years, though.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, for what
I
I
don't-
understand.
I don't think any of us know what they're going to do,
Well, you don't know what tomorrow brings.
but
We-
but they're going to do something.
We don't know that.
Yeah, I thought they denied.
I mean, they've been talking about it.
No, they have not made the decision yet. They don't have to make it for a while, and they don't even have to ask us when they go to do it. It's theirs.
So
They
we
can
can
do.
s-
They
so-
can do what they
so-
want.
So our options are we can sit and wait on them, or we can start fighting now.
Well, like I said, don't interpret what I'm
No,
saying
no, I'm
as
just saying that's
for
our
or
choices.
against what you're doing. I'm just saying there are consequences when you go to do things like this, and one of it will be for the general public. I mean, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, "Well, do this for me."
They should say, hey, look, they did it.
Yeah,
Let's
start
come
an
together as well.
organization.
okay. I guess, that, as far as the general public, when they see what we do, okay, well, I had a line in here on that. I received an email from someone on the bay, and he was excited about the potential for dredging. And he said, I never thought that they would seriously consider dredging Baugo Bay. Okay. Well, I'll say, he is right. They will never dredge Baugo Bay. There is no they. It is we. If Baugo Bay is going to be dredged, it's because of the people in this room, the people that couldn't get here. We have to make this happen. As far as specifically with the public, they're on their own. They they can apply for grants, they can go through the process, they can get organized, they can make it happen. But if we're going to save Baugo Bay, we need to do it, and we need to get busy.
We can make a tent and a guide.
Sure,
It will definitely help.
we could advise. we could advise, but I mean, the DNR advised us, brought us to Steve, and you know, but let there's one other question. If I could answer this question, and I really want to, a lot of what I still have to go over might answer a lot of other questions. Did you have a quick one?
Just one question. A problem that have come up recently in that Baugo Bay with start those lily pads so long. Would it be advisable while we're searching for the money to do the dredging to get rid of those lily pads?
Absolutely.
And
I mean, that would be something with the DNR. It is non-native. It is an invasive species, and that is definitely something that we would want to deal with. I mean, is that correct, Steve?
There is grants for that. Aquatic vegetation management plans. You can,
actually, according to the state of Indiana, that is part of DNR.
yeah, that's part of the layer. It's part of the layer program. They do have aquatic vegetation management as part of that.
Right.
And there are grants available.
I think just doing that is gonna help a lot. Maybe not for the
It-
east side.
it-
West side.
Is that any part of this plan?
It'd be separate from this, but there are funds available. It's a separate.
Is
pool
it
of money.
similar with matching funds
Yeah.
and such? Okay. Let me circle back around to that. Okay. To get to my second part, kind of the follow up after Steve here. I mean, the sediment removal study, I don't think anybody in the room is surprised that we all know it's bad. We know the vegetation's bad. We know it's shallow. We are not surprised to know that it is expensive. And reality is that a big project doesn't get taken care of quickly. I mean, it's going to take some time and it's going to take some effort. There is no magic wand here. If we're going to get it done, we need to do four things. We need to create an organization. We need to find a disposal site. We need to apply for sediment removal grants, and we need to raise money. Okay, create an organization. We'll need to create an HOA or a nonprofit to be able to receive grants in the future. For the sediment removal study, Osceola is taking care of the finances, and I signed on the line to guarantee that Osceola would not lose money. Okay, well that was for $9,500, $7,500 that grew to $9,500. But for multiple $100,000 grants, there's no way that one person can guarantee that. Okay, so we won't be able to use Osceola to handle the finances. We would need to create an HOA or a nonprofit, and to do that would be effort. It would require having probably 5 officers, elections, a bank account, tax filings, insurance, and bylaws. Probably not covenants, as a lot of HOAs might have. There'd be no reason for that, but it would need structure to be recognized by the Secretary of the State for Indiana. If we don't do this, nothing else said matters, because there is no way around it. There is no end run. There's no cheating the system. If we do not get organized, nothing happens, period.
Each and every one of our. I don't think any of us want that.
To continue on, if anyone around Baugo Bay has any legal experience, legal connections that could help us get organized, please contact me, because if anyone has any connections, that could save us some money. Okay, a disposal site. Gentleman in the back, we'll be talking. We might have more dirt than he wants, Um, you know, we need to find disposal sites that are cost effective. For the most part, the closer they are, the cheaper they are. Because trucking is could very well be the biggest expense. Um, I mean, the more miles that you have to drive, the more expensive it is. So if anybody knows of, if anybody has any great ideas, knows somebody, definitely want to talk. But if there's also other options, we want to explore those as well. If you know anything, please contact me. Um, the sediment removal grant application was number 3 here of the important things that we need to do. We will submit an application for a layer grant, hopefully in 2026. Like I said, we've been told that we could be eligible for 3 $100,000 grants that each would require a 20% match. So that's matching of $20,000 for every 100,000. I don't know how fundraising will go, and it could be that could take multiple years. It depends on how motivated people are.
That aspect.
Sure.
Like Elkhart does the river path. We got pretty shallow water. It's usually pretty clear. I think we do some.
Well, sometimes
Yeah.
some people are very
I like it.
motivated, and I mean,
We have an
you know,
association or not.
we all have
We could do
one
both.
thing in common. We're all looking at each other across the bay, or people down the creek. I mean, we all love the river. The river is in, I would guess, every single person in this room, the river's in your blood. Uh, I grew up on the river. I met my wife in the middle of Baugo Bay. Okay, so
Sorry,
go
how
ahead.
long does the sediment study last? Because it is a long process. How long will the DNR accept the current study?
Yeah, they usually say about 5 to 10 years in that range. It'll be good
That's
for,
long range.
yeah, it'll be good. I mean, it'll be, yeah, I mean,
And it could be a second round in
you may
7 or 8
you may-
years.
yeah, you may even 5 years because there's so much dynamics going on with the water flow. You may want to update the plan, say in a few years or 5 years, because you may have a lot of change in that time frame, but it wouldn't be the full blown planning again.
But potentially it could be cheaper to get the plan
Certainly,
updated.
certainly.
Yeah. I think knowing a lay of the land, or
How many residents are we talking about? How many houses and residents are we talking about?
I don't know if we have to count it.
was it 54?
I think it was
54, 56 maybe?
54
And
residences?
yes, on the east side of the bay, the west side of the bay, and up Baugo Creek. We did not talk to the north side of Baugo Bay. Just the shallow water, they don't have the same problems that we have. And that could be something to expand the group later. I don't know. But
change the definition.
I would say I don't live on by 40 years. Certainly does track and just not having it. I mean, that it's there. I think you might be. Yeah. So you might be able to get some money.
let me get back to this. The fourth thing on the things that we really need to do, we need to raise money. We'll seek out money from any source that we can find, government, parks, drainage board, any option. I mean, anybody has any great ideas, we're down for it. We will need to create an organization. We're thinking the Baugo Bay Association. We need to create it. We need to maintain it, and that will take money, but also the 20% match for the layer grants. Now, my hope is to create an organization that can watch over Baugo Bay until the day I die. That's significant. To get an operation or an organization that has people that are active and the bay needs to be watched over. There's no limit, I don't believe, to how many times we can apply for lair grants. I think that having an association that has a bank account that has a certain amount of money in it, so that if one day you have a big storm and an island shows up, that maybe you have 50 grand sitting there in the bank account and you call somebody and get the permit and have it removed. Because if a sandbar turns into an island and then you start growing a tree, you will never get rid of that island. It is a permanent part of the bay at that point. Any sandbars that turn into islands, they have to be eliminated immediately. And to do that, you have to have the uh, you have to have the people in charge of it to make that happen. And that's not the time to start figuring it out. You figure it out ahead of time, and when it happens, you take care of it. Okay. I mean, fundraising. I live next to the boat launch. I have thought, hey, I could have, we could have a banner made up for a GoFundMe account. There are hunters, there's fishermen, there's kayakers in there all the time. To make up a banner to have, right next to the boat launch, maybe we could convince them to help support Baugo Bay dredging. I mean, I can't tell you how many boats I've seen, fishing boats or hunters that get stuck, and they might be willing to throw some money at it occasionally. So, as far as a GoFundMe thing, if anyone has any experience with such fundraising kinds of things, contact us. We need your help. Or maybe if anyone has any connections with banner making companies that could get us a deal on a banner for something like that, contact me there also. Okay, I'm on to the third page here. This is my final page. So sorry, I'm only a third of the way. I'll try to go fast. I served on the board of directors of Blair Hills in Mishawaka. I don't know how many people are familiar with Blair Hills. It is a large neighborhood that basically has a lot going on between the pool, 50% common space, villas, townhouses, entities, pool, lot going on. I was on the board of directors for many years, and I was the president on the board for the last few years I was there. We accomplished a lot of things that people thought were impossible. Big group of people, sometimes pointing out all the reasons why you can't do something, and that can really be it can really make it hard. If the group is positive and has energy and just a can-do attitude, I'll tell you, I've been involved with impossible things that we made possible and got done. Sometimes it took 5 years or 10 years, but a small group of people, they can move mountains. And I've seen it. I plan to be on Baugo Bay the rest of my life, and I'm in for the long haul, and I'm willing to fight this fight. Many of us in this room, many of us have a seawall that's expensive, a pier that's expensive, maybe a couple boats that are expensive. Some of us have a lot of money right out along the water. How much is it worth to everyone in this room to be able to get out, to get a boat out into the river easily? Or so so you don't have to worry about how many people to put in the pontoon boat because if you put too many people in, you're not going to be able to get out to open water. You know, I would guess most of the people in this room can relate to that. How much is it worth? Um, you know, it's a big question. Um, you know, the talked about the GIS maps. It is shocking. Those pictures showing how it has gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. Wow. You got to wonder,
Right.
10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, how much worse can it get? It can keep getting worse. You know, um, yeah, I mentioned my father-in-law lived his whole life there, passed 7 years ago. Um, he lived on the property his entire life, and as a kid, off a short pier, he could dive into Baugo Bay. Now there's like a football field sized area that's 10 inches deep. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, where did that sand come from? Um, you know, uh, I don't want Boggo Bay to turn into a wetland area with cattails and a few creeks going out to the river. I believe that it's time to push back. If we don't do it, nobody will. You know, if we don't do it, nobody will. If anybody is highly motivated, if they're willing, we could use some more volunteers. I'm not sure how yet, but
Please join us.
join us,
Yeah.
join us, because more people, more ideas, more resources, that is a good thing. Um, adding to our skill set would be good. Um, you know, there will be challenges ahead of what work to do and when. Okay, I have experience with this in Blair Hills. I mean, just 500 homes, a lot of people not happy in one way or another. But people are generally concerned most about what happens in their own backyard. They're not thinking, well, you know, all my neighbors, you know, they need it more than me. Well, okay, so there there can be some infighting, you know, but in my experience, I recognize the need to spread around the benefits so that people feel that they're getting their fair share. Okay, I don't know how this would play out exactly. I don't know how fundraising would go. You know, right now we don't know for sure that we can even get a grant or multiple grants, but we will figure it out. That would be a good problem to have. And you know, some of those discussions could potentially be difficult in the future, but we'll cross that bridge when we get. And you know, um, I'm not doing this just to take care of my backyard. I um, I definitely lean towards the, is it magnanimous? Would that be the big word that would be accurate? I mean, you know, things have to be, life isn't fair, but they have to be relatively fair to spread around the benefit. And that would definitely be taken into consideration. Okay. I haven't mentioned these guys here. In the short term, I have a large ask of this group. I'm looking for 10 people to donate $500. The reason, you know, and preferably in the next couple weeks. I think that we need $5,000 very soon to meet with a lawyer to set up either an HOA or a nonprofit to get insurance and other supplies that we might need, maybe a laptop or something like that, email for an organization. We need to do this soon to have any hope of a 2026 layer sediment removal grant. If you have the means or high motivation, higher donations would definitely be appreciated. But you know, we need the we need the Secretary of State to recognize the Baugo Bay Association so that we can apply for a sediment removal grant. And to do that, we have to get organized, and that costs money. Lawyers are not cheap. But if you happen to have legal connections, I do have a lawyer that specializes in that's kind of been recommended as someone that specializes in setting up 501c3s and HOAs. But if we can do it cheaper, even better. So please email me or call me or stop by or something if you can help us get started financially. We would appreciate it. One way or another, we're going to figure it out. But if we could, I mean, if the group trusts us, I mean, it's kind of, we need a little bit of trust to get this thing rolling. And once we get it rolling, then we'll have elections and we'll have a president and a vice president and a secretary and treasurer, and we'll have the bank account and we'll have all of the things that are required of a organized operation. But until we get there, we're kind of just four guys you got to trust. And we are trustworthy, and a lot of you know where I live now. So
I may have missed this, but what is the way to get a hold of you? Have you given us your email or your phone number?
He's got his cards up here.
I have cards here. That also on the invitations, if you still have those, it had then grab a card.
Okay. I have helped set up an HOA, a 501c. I can help direct that. I'm not legal advice, but I am like the secretary type person for both.
We want to get to know you better. Excellent. Okay. I am done, but I guess I'd like to open it up to my counterparts here to see if they have anything that they would like to say, probably on the quicker.
Oh yeah, this won't take long. I've been a resident of Baugo Bay for 49 years. Two big events happened in '82. We had 6-7 inches of rain come through here, and that washed a lot of the sediment into the bay. A handful of years ago, in the middle of winter, we had rain, snow melt, and that blew some more out into the bay. I wish I was still 21, just moving on to the bay, but I'm dedicated to moving this forward. How fast we can go, well, we would like to see it go faster than what we've done the last couple of years. However, if it takes calling Nelson's Chicken and setting up down here at Smith's for a Saturday and selling potatoes, pork chops, and chicken, not a lot of money, but I'll dedicate that time to move the ball forward.
Yeah, no, I think that before we leave here, I'd like to maybe schedule another meeting. It seems like some people are really gung ho about this, and that's what we need. We need to jumpstart this. And like I said, the more the merrier. We get a lot more things done. We just categorize different things for each and every one. And I think if you guys are interested, just let us know. Just let us know. We need help.
And we do need help, but for the last couple of years, it has moved slower because we figured this all out from scratch. The guy who was starting it just handed us a whole unorganized paper and was like, here you go, take it easy. But to your point, you're right. And we've actually talked to the DNR about this is a Band-Aid, but there's also other things that I've talked to Doug about that is There's erosion grants, because if you go farther down the creek, there's a lot of it that you can see just cuts out, and that's a big problem of it. But there's erosion grants, there's log jams, and then the invasive vegetation that's always with it too. But to move forward with this, to at least get us to zero out, if you will, then after that, yes, that's part of the plan of what he's saying. Like, we do this for the next 10, 20 years, you get back to zero, and then we start moving along with going farther down the creek. But the problem with that is you got to get farmers and landowners to let you get there, to let them go on the land and do the work. But that, I agree with you. It's
I don't know if it came up, but you guys thought of that, but a lot of people. I know. So, 3 of them, yeah.
Yeah.
They're protected, but you can register with the DNR to trap to.
Yeah.
People just want.
exactly, yes. There is somebody out there that's taking them out. I don't know who it is, but I know somebody that is taking them out. Really?
He probably brings them over to the bay.
You know, presumably he has the contact and he's got a license and.
You know,
Right. Right. And that's the thing, is like, just as this is the starting point, and we've done this for, so we've hit a brick wall on a few different things, but the overall, like, our thought being with this, just doing this, is yes, let's do the scary number first, or try to pick away at that. But moving down the line, yes, there is a root cause, and we don't want to band-aid it, because yes, we're not throwing $3 million every 10 years at it. We want to try to get it to zero. And then in a couple of years, when we get everything down, we start moving down with the DNR down the creek and actually addressing the problems that they know are there. They know they're there. They're the ones who.
Wrong. I believe the DNR is supposed to come out. It's like a storm that has a log jam.
Yes.
the drainage board came out to take out that log. John Law. Actually, John Law is with St. Joe County Drainage Board. And on the east side, there is a tree, a huge tree that blocked the channel. It was impassable. And after a couple calls, he came out. They spent $7,000 removing that tree. I mean, it was a bear.
We got another. But yeah, that's all I got. I mean, just it's go ahead.
Does like the crop have to be something from dump trucks? I didn't know like that could be something they can help.
It's a possibility.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
At this point, we really don't know. Everything we've learned and that is we fit roadblocks, and then we had to go in this direction, then we had to go over here. And we know the right people now to ask the questions to where we can get.
Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
I'd have to say, sometimes some of the conversations, might talk about how little has been done in the last couple of years since the last meeting. I don't see it that way. I mean, I think people have been talking about dredging the bay for decades. And right now we're further having a sediment removal study than has ever happened before. And we know the people, and we
can get questions answered quickly. We know who to call now. Where certain things come up to where before we're like, well, what do we do?
Who do you call? Who's going to do this for us? Okay, we have the answer to that. Nobody. Nobody is going to do this for us.
Yeah.
We have to make it happen. And we know what we need to do to make any of it happen. Those four things that I mentioned. And, I'm proud. I'm proud that we've gotten as far as we have gotten. And it seems as if we have momentum. And I think we have to get organized and keep moving forward. So, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, but the bridge is still there.
Yeah.
Okay, it is still there. It went across. Okay, the bridge crossed Baugo Creek, probably in like 1850 or so. And as a little thing here. In the middle of the bay was my wife's great 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 grandfather's apple orchard. And when they put in the dam, the water level came up, and the apple orchard was gone, and the bridge got swallowed up by the bay. It is true. Okay, are there any? Yes.
Yeah, they put
Yep.
Yes.
my thought would be fire it east or something.
Okay, the interesting thing about Baugo Bay, it's not in OCLR. Yeah, as far as the bay, it is in the county. And as far as dealing with I&M, I who would you even call?
I
And
actually have I when we get started on this, I kind of have a contact or two that explore to go higher. So I thought the same
we will
thing.
try.
They lease out the boat launch and everything else too. Mhm.
I would not.
Right.
We will try what we can, but I would not hold your breath.
Oh, I'm gonna try.
My name is taxed to that property and vacant factory land. Taxes are based on, pay quite a bit of tax on.
Their land grows every year.
I have a question for we're talking long term. And in the short term, in front of my property, got more and more every year, more and more cattails. Is there anything we can do as homeowners to get rid of it? Legally?
Yeah, talk
Or not
talk
legally?
to Adam. Talk to Adam and Scott maybe when the meeting's over. They might be able to give some tips.
We can
You can,
talk,
tr-
we
you
can
can
talk
tree
after
up to
the meeting.
625 square feet around your pier without any kind of permit. You can spray or treat or pull or whatever you want to do with around your pier. 600, it's like 25 foot by 25 foot. Is you don't need a permit.
They got big yet, Scott?
I don't know.
Beyond that, you can get a permit from the DNR that they may or may not approve it, but you can get a permit to treat areas. And if this lotus problem is an invasive species, yeah, I'll talk to Doug Newsbaum about that and see if that's not something that can't be addressed, because that, I mean,
Look into the physics behind like fluid dynamics. And
Yeah.
like, moving some stones and like, shifting flow technologies.
Right.
I'll say early on, I thought,
We ventured down there.
the thing is, if you change the flow of the water and you get rid of the center channel so that all the water flows along the edges, and then all that water is flowing along the edges, and the people on the west side of the bay, if all of their houses fall into the river because of all the erosion on the west bank, I would not want to be the one to make that decision. Well, I mean, I didn't put, yeah, I mean, but as far as a major change of the flow of water, um, potentially dangerous, or
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you know,
That goes beyond my knowledge too, the fluid dynamics of that,
that's
making certain channels.
Army Corps of Engineers
Yeah,
or something.
right.
So, I guess I want to mention one more time, please, everyone, the clipboards, please leave your contact information. Um, we're going to create an email list and try to identify every product or every property to be able to be in communication often. But feel free, anyone, to reach out to me. You can grab a business card, or my contact information is on the invitation. Um, are there any final questions?
No, just a comment.
Comments?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And once the plan is complete, it will be available on DNR's, the Lair website. And I will get a link, to Scott too, that way he can, when you guys get your whatever, if you have a channel or whatever set up, an email that he can blast out to everybody for a link to a Google Drive or something.
And please consider being a founding member of a $500 donation to help us get the ball rolling. Contact me.
What's that?
You can
Yeah,
always
I work for them.
also, if you're having a hard time getting in touch with me, maybe
Is it?
through Tina at
Oh,
Osceola.
did you?
She knows how to get in touch with me. Or go, my family's
Just started
business
in
is Coffle
January. I
Vending.
really like them. They're good people.
Coffle Vending website. I'm Scott Coffle. So I'm pretty easy to get in touch
Who's
with.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I started their Fort Wayne office. General manager of the Fort Wayne office.
Oh, no, and they got a check, if I can get out.
Damn, man, I didn't even recognize you with a beard.
We're trying to figure it
Walked right past when I came in.
out. We don't know. Can you give us a minute?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
No, maybe you
that's
can
fine.
help us because you're the secretary.
I'm
No, I
just-
mean, we're
you're
trying.
gonna start somewhere. and
Yeah.
it's like this muddy water